You are listening to Red Planet Podcasts. Here is your host, Richie Vargas and Chris Saavedra.
What is going on, guys? This is Richie here, back again for episode 2 of Red Planet Podcast. And joined with me, of course, is my partner in crime, Chris. What is going on, Chris?
What is going on, people?
And today, I guess we're going to discuss, we're going to do some more spooky stuff, I suppose. We're going to talk about some horror movies, I guess, that just kind of messed us up as children. So,
yeah, let's get into it.
Without further ado, I always talk about this movie in like the highest of regards because it just left quite an impression with me, and that's the Blair Witch Project.
I think it's actually one of the first horror films you've ever seen, right?
I think it was.
Probably back in Booth Court. If you, no, it was before.
Yeah,
Booth Court.
no, I saw
Hollywood.
it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was back in that OG place when you guys moved like down the street from us.
Yeah.
We kind of got a little bit in depth with that in the first episode, and we were talking about our scary ghost stories. So if you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to do so because it was dope. But yeah, Chris and I were neighbors pretty much growing up our entire lives.
Yeah.
Since we were like 10, 11 years old. But I remember we had the VHS when I was a kid before, like, we moved to Connecticut or whatever. And just the VHS cover would always freak me out because it was just like that face or whatever.
Oh, the girl.
Yeah, the girl's face or whatever when like all the cookies are just
shit.
flying out. Exactly. So I never saw the movie as a kid. I only saw it when you guys had finally moved to Connecticut after we did. You had the VHS as well, and you had that little TV that had the VHS thing in the TV.
Oh my God, I remember that TV.
Yeah, the small little TV. It was a dope TV though.
That was.
But yeah, I remember we
had
watched
the red and yellow cable in the front,
Yeah.
which was pretty convenient.
Yeah, for like PS2 or like the
Yeah.
GameCube or whatever. Super.
Oh,
convenient. Yeah, and then when you got the DVD player too, like it just connected in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Anyways.
was pretty tight. All right, yeah, keep going. Sorry, we just got off track a little bit.
Away. Yeah, and then I remember we watched it, and I thought it was like the most terrifying thing in the world, and that was before we really had internet and stuff like that. But I think we just got so infatuated with the lore of the movie that like we would kind of just like theorize to ourselves, or we analyzed that movie, like all the scary parts we'd go back and like rewind it and pause and stuff like that and try and see if we saw things that they didn't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I remember we even we would there was a section in the movie that I remember when I think it was after their, I want to say like the third experience that they had in the forest, and then they were running. It was after the kids were playing in the tent. That really scary part when they were just like all the hands and stuff like that, and then they woke up and then they were running. I remember I think it was either Angie or Angel. They kept saying that, yo, you don't see that? Like when they were running, there was supposedly like eyes and things in the forest as they were running, but I never got to see it. I don't know if I was just too young and dumb, or I never saw it. It was just too crazy at the time, and it was just like so much was happening at that moment, and it's dark, so I didn't get to see it. But yeah, like it's funny that you said that because I remember that specifically, that part. But yeah, keep going.
It also could have been just us as kids, like being immature,
Imagining,
and just like imagining things.
Right.
I remember listening to this other podcast and this YouTuber who's been around for quite a while. Him and his friend, like when they lived in Hawaii, they would go and explore like all these abandoned places, and nothing would happen, but they would kind of like get themselves riled up like at the smallest little sound, and then like the other one would like try and
feels because your mind kind of plays tricks on you.
Exactly,
And you
like
kind of
you
believe.
you want to feel or experience that weird stuff. So it could have just been that.
Right.
I do know at that particular scene, though, however, I believe some of like the filmmakers or like the producers or whatever, like they were standing off to the side. Like there were a lot of things that they didn't tell the cast members so they can get genuine reactions.
Right. Which is brilliant.
Right. Obviously, like we're breaking kayfabe here. The movie is fake, just like wrestling. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I mean, obviously they made a part 2 and part 3 that were
Right.
terrible.
And then the actors are listed on IMDb, but that's besides the point. But wrestling is real, so. But this movie's fake. So, what the filmmakers did, like the directors and everything, they left like walkie-talkies and like instructions, I believe, at like the next set piece for the movie. Can't kind of give them like a breakdown of things to do or whatever. And unbeknownst to the actors, they wouldn't know like what would transpire because they wanted that genuine reaction of the fear.
Right.
So during that scene where the kids are playing with the tent, which would have anyone shook, I don't want to
Right.
go camping after that.
Yeah.
Like
That
what
was
Jaws,
freaky.
what Jaws did for the water, this movie I think did for the woods.
Yo, for real, man.
You know. And so after that scene, like how you were mentioning, like they just booked it, and they're running and running and running it, and you hear the main character, I forget her name, saying like, saying like, oh my god, like what the heck is that, blah blah blah, whatever. They were standing off to the side, like dressed in like white or just dressed weird. So
the
like the filmmakers
cast,
and everything
the
like that.
filmmakers and stuff.
Yeah. And unfortunately, whoever was holding the camera like didn't pan over to like look. But I think A, it would have been too dark, number one, and B, it's kind of best left unknown.
To leave it up to the imagination.
Right, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
Because I kind of think about how when we did our film, Bruja, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that shit was dope.
Exactly.
We got to
If you
do
haven't-
part 2.
Exactly. If you haven't watched it, it's one of the best films ever made. It reminds me of when you
Shameless plug.
go subscribe on my Planet Film. Leave a like. It reminds me of when you were running towards the climax of the film,
Oh, yes.
and
Yeah.
you were just like breathing heavy and stuff like that. And I know people would ask you like, "Yo, like, why are you breathing so heavy?" And like you would say the same response, like, you would be mad shook and mad out of breath and just hyperventilating, but you would be fighting for your life. You know what
Yes, absolutely.
So,
And I
like-
kind of just winged that. Like, I don't,
Right.
it just,
I mean? Right.
it just felt natural to do
Right.
that.
And like it seemed genuine, and like you're holding a camera and you're either gonna A, drop it, or B, you're not gonna be cognitive to the fact that like I'm running scared for my life, let me look around. You know what I mean?
Right. You're not going to be like,
Right.
and you're
Right.
just going to be panning everywhere.
Right.
No,
Like-
it's not going to work like that.
I mean, like, I get it, some people want to see that. Like, if you watch the Paranormal Activity movies, you literally see everything happening, like, in the final acts, especially, like, the ones after the first one. Because
Yeah.
they're more POV and stuff like that, whereas the
POV,
first
yeah.
one,
Mhm.
they had, like, those Resident Evil 1 type camera angles. Because, like, they had
Oh,
cameras
that's
around,
a
like,
great reference.
you know, they had the cameras
That's
around the
amazing.
house.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree.
But,
Going back onto to Blair Witch though, like I remember, like especially with what you just said about me in that little scene of I would think it was the Tiffany killing you, and then me running off and like the camera shaking and stuff like that, breathing heavy and stuff like that. When they left that tent, I mean, that was, I think, like probably the most terrifying thing that can ever happen to you. And,
I have to say so. That or when Josh went missing.
yeah, that too. But and then hearing him.
Yeah, the next
scream.
night.
Yeah,
I literally
like-
just got chills right now.
Yeah, that's pretty freaky too. Because then they're just like, where are you? Because you know they can't see shit, and they just
Right.
hear their friend just being tortured
Right.
in a really uncomfortable way. I don't think any film to date has ever made an impact like that, because it's what it is so simple.
Right.
That's the thing. That's
Exactly.
the beauty part about the beauty about, I think, Blair Witch. There was no special effects. There was no crazy CGI. There was nothing crazy. Like, it was just literally 3 people in the woods with a camera, getting lost. And they were doing research for a project, and they just fucking got lost. Like,
Right.
and the fact that they spent the night and did all those things, and then like they wake up, their boy is missing, and then like you just hear him. He's not even screaming for his life. Like he's just dying. Like he's literally just being tortured. Like it's one of those the most terrifying things I think that any film has ever done, and I don't think any
Right.
film can top that, to be honest. And I think it's because it was so simple and so creative, and at that time of because I could still watch this movie and still get fucking scared.
Exactly.
And at that time, especially being 10, 11, younger, because I think I saw it a little younger before you got to see it. I might have been like 9 or 10 when I first saw it, but when I saw it for the first time, being a little kid, like I knew what was happening. I didn't understand the ending for shit, but I knew, like, okay, this person's missing and screaming for life, like, and I just remember, like, that's just pure creativity, and it's like I don't think nothing's gonna top that, and especially where horror movies are going out nowadays. Yeah, like that just, it sends chills down the spine, and it'll always resonate with, I think, us, because we saw it so young.
Right, and we can appreciate it like now. Like it scared us back then, and the fact that it still leaves an impression now. Like,
Right.
kind of like what you said, in its simplicity. Like there's things like that can't really be done nowadays. Whereas you get, movies that have influenced pop culture, such as The Exorcist or The Shining or Rosemary's Baby. You get those horror classics, Psycho,
Yeah.
or even like the old Universal movie monsters like Dracula or Wolfman or Frankenstein. You watch them
Right.
now and you're like, these are corny, but for back
Right.
then they were revolutionary in the fact that
Yeah,
they
especially
still
Exorcist.
resonate. Right, like they still
Exorcist
resonate
was like,
now.
yeah, they do. And I remember when they remade it, or re-released, I guess, The Exorcist,
Right.
because Exorcist came out like in the 70s, I believe.
78?
78, I want to say. 78, 76.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even born when it came out, but they released it again when I was younger. Sorry about that. They released it again when I was a little kid, and I just laughed because I didn't understand. This little kid just laughing in the movie. This girl is fucking crazy and bending backwards and just crawling, and being a kid, you don't know what the fuck. You don't know that it's the devil or a demon taking over a little child's body. You just
Right.
see it as a girl going crazy type shit. But I remember, like, my parents, they always said that was like the scariest movie of their time, and because the fact of it was something done that was almost like superstition to them growing up, like, like the
Right.
devil takes over your body. Like, nothing was ever done like that for their time. So when Exorcist came out, and it's like this demon taking over a girl's body, and it's like,
It's
it
still
was talked
relatively
about,
unknown. Right.
yeah, and it was talked about, I think, for them as children, like as horror, as like horror stories, like be good, or you get possessed or some shit. I don't know, but then it goes into to effect, because before Exorcist, there wasn't any movies that really indicated any possession and stuff like that. And then from Exorcist, now that's all you get. It's all these possession movies, but
Possession
they're terribly
movies.
done.
Right, exactly. Just to clarify before, just in case anybody tries to correct us, the movie came out in 73, and then the book was written in 71. But, yeah, to kind of
gotcha.
backtrack a little bit, like what you said about the Blair Witch Project and it being such a simple idea, I just pulled up the trivia on IMDb, and the first one says, this film was in the Guinness Book of World Records for a top budget box office ratio for a mainstream feature film. The film cost $60,000 to make and made back $248 million, which is
Wow,
a
that's
ratio.
profit.
It's a ratio of $1 spent for every $10,931 made. So to say that this movie made back its budget and then some, I think that's pretty fair to say. And then to backtrack again,
But
what we
where
were
did that
talking about,
$60,000? What did that go to? Because
that was their budget for the whole movie.
That's crazy. Because
Yeah.
they literally had a camera, two
Like,
cameras.
for the cameras, I do know that they rented them and then they returned them. Like they rented them for the duration of the shoot, and then they
Wow.
returned them to the video store because they couldn't afford to get
Right.
those high quality cameras. So obviously that $60,000 went to the shoot locations, whatever they needed, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And then to probably and then maybe to pay the actors or whatever. And then to backtrack when we were talking about the tent scene, the third piece of trivia here says, in the scene where the main actors are sleeping in a tent at night, the tent suddenly shakes violently and they all get scared. This was unscripted and the director shook the tent. The actors are actually scared.
That's awesome.
That was my mistake. It was unscripted. I thought they knew about that. But then to kind of circle back to what we were just discussing about, original ideas of horror, like the Universal Monsters or Psycho or Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist or this, or I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Hereditary. I feel like that's our generation of those movies or whatever.
Hereditary kind of fucked me up.
Oh, so you did see it, right?
Yeah, I saw it with my
Yeah.
brother when I came down
Right.
this last time.
Right. I forgot.
Yeah, that movie
Yeah.
was
tough.
Yeah.
It's not escapist horror like slasher films or whatever. It's real horror, and it's not even a horror movie per se.
That movie, no, it's one of those just eerie movies that just kind of, you think back at moments and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I remember that would be great. That sits well with this topic because that movie definitely left an impression in my every day, just because there's a scene specifically that kind of really freaked me out.
Spoilers for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this, but
Oh yeah. And Blair Witch Project. Sorry.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
only been
yeah.
out for 20 something years.
yeah, if you haven't seen Blair Witch Project and you love horror movies, then I don't know what you're doing.
Right. Or The Exorcist.
Or The Exorcist, correct. But for Hereditary, there's a scene specifically that just, I don't know why it scares the shit out of me, but it's the scene where the dude, he just woke up from his little, I think he was slamming his head on the thing, and he had
the brother.
the brother, yeah, and he passed out, whatever. And then he went home and all that shit, and then it was the scene where he wakes up and he's looking for his mom and his family and whatever, and there's actually two scenes that really fucked me up in this movie, but this scene and another scene, holy shit, I can't talk, and another scene, but this scene was the one that kind of was just holy fuck, okay, this is creepy.
They're not
but
playing.
yeah, where he comes down the stairs and then he's looking for his mom. He sees the dad's dead body or whatever, and then the mom is on the fucking ceiling, like Spider Woman, and she's just staring at him, and it's just what the fuck? And
Not
then
even
as
before
soon
he goes downstairs, she's up in the ceiling in his room.
yes, yeah, no, it's that scene, and then that whole entire scene.
Yeah.
So from the room, she's in the corner in the black, yeah, I remember that, and then he goes down and she's still following him on the ceiling or whatever, and then he's walking by and then he turns around and there's just a nigga naked just standing there,
Yeah, it was that creepy
for some
old guy
reason
from the funeral in the beginning.
that was terrifying, y'all.
Yeah.
Just
He's
mad, just
smiling.
because yeah, and he just looks demonic, out of his fucking mind. I don't know, man. You just put yourself in the kid's shoes. You walk downstairs, see your dad dead, you turn around, and there's just a naked guy just staring at you, smiling.
Right.
What do you do?
Right. This poor kid, like
Yeah, it's
he didn't
like,
ask for any
yo,
of this.
and then not to mention all the shit that he went through before that. Like,
right.
I don't know. That really like
It's a
sat with me.
crazy movie, and we could probably do like a whole podcast dedicated to an analysis on that movie.
Yeah.
I would still
Yeah,
be down
on both
'cause
Blair
there's-
Witch and this.
There's so much to talk about for that movie.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I mean, I think with the Blair Witch Project, that really sparked like our interest in the paranormal and just all that spooky stuff. You know what I mean? Because I know you and I would then kind of explore like those woods that were at the park
Oh yeah.
down the
Let's
street
go,
from
let's go
us.
find a Blair Witch. Let's go find her.
Yeah, come on, let's go find it. I don't know why we did ASMR, but yeah, we would just, explore and stuff like that, or we would try and like creep ourselves out, and then we did have our paranormal experiences, of course.
Yeah.
And then I remember you, me, your brother and sister, like we would all watch like Ghost Hunters, like we'd either get
Yeah.
together or again
Yeah.
we'd go on like the Nintendo DS Picto Chat and talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
We'd watch that or Destination Truth, where they would try and find like the paranormal like monsters and stuff like that, or
Right.
like all those other things. So we always
Yeah, I
had
remember
like
that.
that deep fascination about it. But I don't know, man. There's just something about the Blair Witch Project. And obviously, we were inspired by it with our film, which I would still be down to like do a watch along with you, like either after this podcast or like when we stop recording or whenever, and just do like a watch along and we do like a commentary. We just talk about it.
About Blair Witch?
No, our film.
Oh, our film. Hell yeah, bro. I'm
yeah.
down.
Yeah.
One of the things that also scared me about Blair Witch, since we went back on it, is nothing was ever explained at the time.
Right,
I'm saying,
right,
like
right.
nothing was explained. The kids weren't explained. Didn't? Oh well, it kind of was, because didn't she like used to take kids from the towns and eat them or some shit?
So what they had done was
I forgot the story.
They had plants, like actual like actors or just people like paid to say these things, whatever, the filmmakers, and they would schedule the actors to go interview these people. Some would
Right.
tell them like the lore, quote unquote lore, or some would just go on these improvised sort of like rants about it and stuff like that. So the stuff we're hearing is fact and fiction, even though it's all fiction.
Right.
But since it's like a town legend and blah 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 whatever, so some of the stuff you hear in the movie, it's like that's all the information that you get. And again, this was an
Right.
era before the internet.
Right.
You know?
This is back in what, 98?
99.
I was close.
Yeah. But then I know as well with like the viral marketing and everything like that. Like it premiered at a film festival, and they put up missing posters for the actors. So everyone at the film festival thought the movie was real.
Holy shit.
Some of the actors, like families, received like sympathy cards like in the mail.
That's
because
fucking awesome.
people were like, oh, like I'm sorry for blah 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 whatever, like you're lost, yada yada.
Right.
Even though the actors were alive, but that's how they wanted to sell the movie. And then it was, I guess, when the internet was booming, but you still were limited for certain information that you had.
Right.
So they created the Blair Witch Project.com or whatever, and then they had
I remember that.
right, they had like files like police reports or like
Yeah.
hidden footage from like the cameras and stuff like that.
I remember that.
Just all like these mock news reports,
Like
and
the
everything.
police found it.
Right,
and shit.
right.
Yeah, police
Files
records.
and- exactly.
File. Yep,
So-
I remember that.
That was like the really the first time that like viral like marketing and like online campaigns was utilized to full effect for a film. I think the next movie that really did it well was Cloverfield. Cloverfield had a crazy online like marketing tool where like in the movie there's like the Slusho drinks, there's another company that sponsored or was doing the whole thing that woke up the Cloverfield monster. Like they were there's a news report at some point in the movie that you can see, I think when they're in the store when they're running away from the monster or sometime before, where it shows like this drilling thing like in the middle of the ocean, and then you can see like the monster, and then like it knocks down the whole drilling thingy or whatever. So this company, I'm forgetting the name of it, but they were essentially like mining for oil. And then they woke up the monster. You can actually find the video on YouTube. Like, it's actually really cool.
Wait, I thought there was a part. I remember.
Yeah,
but
towards
then
the
I
end
could
of
be
the
wrong.
film, there's like a thing that falls from the sky
Yeah.
or whatever. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
from
yeah.
the same company that was like doing the drilling like in the water as well.
What the hell was that? I thought that was like a. Wait, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah,
I'll let you
so
finish.
I mean, I could be getting confused or whatever, but I think whatever that landed in the water ended up maybe, I don't know, mutating or just
Mutating. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I thought
right,
happened.
whatever
It mutated.
monster and stuff like that or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's so weird because it gets confusing, or it kind of opens up a whole bunch of different doors. We're going all over the place, but with the Cloverfield Paradox, the Netflix movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that fully. I have to go watch that.
It's so good, but basically, you know, like how in Metal Gear Solid 3, like if you would die, like when he's saying like snake, and if you
Yeah.
leave it on the screen, like you don't press continue right away, the screen gets all like discombobulated, and then it shows like time paradox. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like if you let Snake die, then that's going to create a whole time paradox for, you know, a whole paradigm for the rest of the Metal Gear storyline. As
Yeah,
confusing as it is already, you know what I mean? Like, then there's going to be no big boss, there's not going to be this, that, whatever. So with the Cloverfield Paradox is that these guys, they go up in space, they're doing some stuff, and they end up creating a black hole, and they end up in, like, an alternate universe. When they create the black hole, they get flipped in space, and they notice it because they're facing the other side of the Earth. And then they have to try and figure out how to get back or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So in doing so, when they finally come back, which is inevitable, that's not really like a spoiler, that's going to end up opening up something that really shouldn't have been opened up. So in theory, when they did that, when they came back, that could lead to the events of Cloverfield 1, where that
Gotcha.
thing fell into the water, yada, yada, yada. But
Got you.
at the end of the day, you know, we're just talking about movies that did like viral marketing or whatever, and Cloverfield just has such a crazy, like what Blair Witch Project did, which was incredible. Cloverfield just took it to a whole different level. It's like there's so
That's
much
dope.
lore to like that universe, but to kind of steer this shit back on track, yeah, with the whole Blair Witch Project or whatever,
I have to go rewatch Cloverfield now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I want to
It's-
go rewatch it.
It's crazy. Like, if you just watch the first one and then Cloverfield Paradox, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And if you really, like, sit down and do the research for the first film,
Yeah.
like, online, and you see all the
Yeah,
viral
yeah.
like, the viral marketing, that movie is so brilliant. That's why, like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Even though,
What'd
like,
you think of Cloverfield Lane?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was
Yeah, me
really
too.
good. For a movie that wasn't supposed to be a part of it, you know, it was a different movie, and then they just took it, reshot a couple of things, added a few elements.
Yeah.
There were rumors that Overlord was supposed to be a part of the Cloverfield universe.
Really?
Yeah, but then at some convention or whatever, like J.J. Abrams confirmed like it wasn't, which would have been interesting. You know, it's like
Would've.
right,
Would have
like
been super interesting.
how like there were rumors of like how did the Nazis get this technology to, you know,
Yeah.
create zombies and stuff like that, and then it would have implemented like the aliens. So it would have been like World War II set with zombies and aliens.
Yeah.
You know, like it just would have been like really weird. I'm kind of glad that they didn't, you know,
yeah,
tie it in.
it's definitely interesting though.
Right, but it would have been interesting nonetheless to like see like how long like they've been around, or, you know, stuff like that. Alrighty, and we're back. We both had to take monstrous dumps, but we're here, and we're gonna pick up where we left off. We were, of course, just discussing a couple of movies
Why
that.
the fuck is my chair making
That is
all that noise?
incredibly. Wow. I don't know if I should leave that in or
Holy
not.
crap! I am sorry, guys.
It is totally fine. I'm gonna leave that in. Why not? We're doing it live. I don't care. So we're just
My chair is just making all these noises. Holy crap!
yeah, it's just doing the creaky stuff. It's making us real
Yeah, it's
spooky.
just-
Sounds like the old Hodge Twins videos when they would just rock back and forth. But picking up back where we left off,
Just kidding.
where we were just discussing a couple of movies that kind of sort of, just traumatize us as children. We were discussing the Blair Witch Project, a little bit of Hereditary. Sorry for the spoilers, just in case you haven't seen it. And then we got
by
into
the way,
Cloverfield.
guys, this podcast is definitely going to have spoilers. So if you guys have never seen these videos, we apologize. We should have at least give you guys a little warning that we were going to spoil these movies. But yeah, we're talking about what movies kind of left a big impact in our lives and scared us as kids. So that being said, there is going to be these movies that are automatically going to have these scenes that, kind of are specific to why we picked these movies. So if you guys never seen these movies, I suggest you go watch those. But yeah, sorry for cutting you off.
No,
sir.
it's totally fine. I mean, it's a huge problem if number one, you've never seen Psycho. Number two, you've never seen the Blair Witch Project, Rosemary's Baby, maybe The
Psycho.
Exorcist. I can see maybe why. Cloverfield came out in 2008. You have no excuse. Same with the Blair Witch Project. Same with all those movies, But Hereditary, I guess, because that came out last year. But we're just gonna get right into it. I know you had a couple of movies that you just selected and picked out that kind of had a big impact on you. So
There's a few.
Like.
All right. Yeah, there's a few that kind of stick out off of the dome. Obviously, Blair Witch was something we just discussed, and I think that Blair Witch is something that will always be top tier for us as kids, even as adults. Like I said earlier in the podcast, like even going back now watching that movie, it's still freaky. Still gives me chills. It's still one of those things that it's just like whoa. A lot of nostalgia, but in a horror way. Especially the ending of that movie, like with them facing the wall, nothing being explained on why that was, and it's just one of those movies that will always sit. The other movies that I have, for obvious reasons, I think, was definitely Hereditary. Paranormal Activity, I put up on that list just because when the first one came out, there was again that same effect of like the Blair Witch. Like there's just nothing that has been done besides Blair Witch that was POV, but nothing that had been done in that kind of realm. Like, hey, I'm gonna record myself sleep, and then all these creepy and stuff is gonna happen while I'm sleeping, and then it turns out like the franchise went a direction that I couldn't personally go, but I did enjoy 1, I did enjoy 3, 4, 2, and fucking all the other side ones were they were shit. I'm not gonna lie, they were just not something that I was into. But
Yeah.
1 and 3 really stuck out, and they had really, really cool scenes. Specifically 1 was like a game changer, I think, for a lot of films. Then there's obviously like Halloween. Halloween always has left that fear of Halloween, like the holiday of Halloween, like, because growing up, like you don't really pay attention to the whole story. You're just like, oh, the boogeyman on Halloween is gonna kill a whole bunch of teenagers and whoever's trick-or-treating and stuff. So it's just like that kind of stuck with me growing up. One movie that really, 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 really stuck out. I know I'm kind of going all over the place and just naming these films without giving much feedback on them, but one movie that really stuck out to me, and I believe you too, Richie, us as kids, was The Exorcist: The Beginning. That movie, I remember there was some scenes in that movie that I don't think I was ever ready for.
Especially
yeah,
at that
like
age.
that movie. Yeah, at that age, watching those horror movies.
That movie made me cry.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a freaky movie, man. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. But one film that I think really, really, really made a huge impact, I guess you can say, was and I don't think it did that well in any, like, as far as like box office and stuff like that. It's not that old. I want to say it's like 2007 maybe, or maybe 2010 the latest. I don't think it's any later earlier than that, but it's The Strangers. The Strangers was actually a movie that I think was really well done. Again, it just didn't seem like it took a whole lot of effort and like as far as CGI or special effects and stuff like that. Like, it was literally a movie about a couple that, I guess, spoilers, but guy proposed to his girl. She said no. They were away on a wedding, and she ended up saying no. And then he went to take her back because the plan was to stay at their like cabin house or whatever, family cabin house, and he took her back, and then he has to deal with like the awkwardness of the rejection or whatever. She still loves him and stuff, obviously, but she just wasn't ready for what he was ready for. And then there's just a house in the middle of the woods. They get back at like 2 a.m. and then there's these weird 3 human beings up and alert and fucking with them at that time. And it was a movie that I remember that it definitely freaked me out, especially when I moved to Sheep Hill, because Sheep Hill kind of reminded me of that house. It's kind of away from things and stuff like that, but I obviously had neighbors and stuff, but still just the idea of it, I guess. Another movie that kind of stuck out to me that really made an impact in my life, I would say, is Conjuring. Conjuring was really good for me, I guess. There's a bunch of movies that I can name. Conjuring obviously is probably the newer. Conjuring and Hereditary are probably the newer horror movies, or supernatural movie that came out of recent, as of late. But if I was to go back in time to like when I was like 9, nothing really stuck out besides like Blair Witch, to be honest. Like, Blair Witch was, I know we keep going back to that, but that was just like one of those movies that I think really made a difference in scaring people. Because obviously, like, Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason, Friday the 13th, and all those horror movies, like Hellraiser. Like, I grew up watching all those movies. Oh, shoot. I just thought of a movie.
Bum, bum, bum. The light bulb went off.
Yeah, like, because okay. Growing up, I watched all these horror movies, and none of them really scared me, but Pet Sematary, there was a guy in that movie who, he used to scare me. I don't know why. He was a good dude, I guess, but he freaked me out. Like, I don't know why. It was the guy that got hit by the bus. It was the I don't even know their names, but it was the dad's first day on the job as the doctor. They just moved into a new town. They lived by a pet cemetery, this and that. He went to, save this man from getting hit by the bus. The man died, and then his spirit kind of is like a guide through the movie, but he wasn't bad or anything. He just used to freaking scare me. I don't know why, and yeah, that really made a huge impact in my life for sure. Because even with the new one coming out, it's just like, oh, is that? I wonder if that half, because he had like his face literally cut in half. So I thought of that just now. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of films that really like made a huge impact in my life as far as horror movies, and I could keep going on, and I can even give you details on each of these movies and why. But yeah, I don't want to hog up the mic either.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I mean, I definitely can understand and see why some of those movies definitely impacted you. I definitely share some of the same similarities, of course, you know. Again, some people tend to like the spectrum of like the jump scare movie or whatever, whereas we're more psychological and we like the understanding behind some of these horror films. And even though some of the ones you mentioned might have jump scares or are slasher films, it might be a little bit cheap or whatever. I mean, with The Strangers, it starts off by saying based on true events, and the reason being is because I believe the director, when he was a kid, I don't know if his relative, like his sister or something, answered the door, and there was just somebody literally going like door to door asking if so and so was home. And you know, it was a bit of like a creepy experience. I think the person got like arrested or whatever. It doesn't matter, but that was sort of like the catalyst of the idea for that film. Halloween was made on a budget of like $300,000, and it's like an incredible film. You know what I mean? It spawned so many sequels and et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's just, again,
It's aged really well.
right. And going back to what we mentioned about like the Universal monsters, how people love Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman. We have Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. You know, that's our generation. Then we go back to
Right.
how we mentioned the Blair Witch Project, and there wasn't really a film that was as effective as that, and just made you really scared. You know, Paranormal Activity came out, and I have to agree to disagree with you. I know you enjoyed it. I didn't like it personally. The first film, at least. Second film was okay. I did enjoy the third film. I know that one took place, I believe, in the 80s. So there was a lot of
Yeah,
innovative
that one
ways
did.
in how they were able to do certain things because technology wasn't as, of course, advanced as it is now. So I really enjoy that movie from a technical standpoint, and it was very well done. 4 was not the best, and then there was 2 other ones, like the spin-off ones, which were just abysmal films, but that's besides the case. You know, I know people, again, they enjoy those. And again, you know, how you mentioned Pet Cemetery and films like that or whatever. Definitely agree, you know. A lot of those movies, they take a lot of visual aspects or just storytelling aspects, and again, it just they know how to mess with you, like emotionally and everything like that. And again, I guess going back to like the Blair Witch Project, so some of the movies that we mentioned, of course, or you mentioned rather, they don't have that less is more aspect, but it's effective horror in the sense that the way that they use all of the elements, all the things that they bring to the table is what make them more worthwhile, blah,
Right.
than the occasional horror flick or whatever, where it's just like jump scare here, jump scare there, stupid teenager here, this person's gonna get naked, boom, you're dead.
Right.
You know? So I guess that's why we're able to appreciate those movies and stuff like that. We kind of saw some of these flicks at a young age, so then when we revisit them at a later age, we're either gonna A, hate it, or B, love it. Thankfully, we were able to appreciate them on a whole other level, to the fact that, and maybe it's a bit of a curse, but you know, we hate the occasional horror movie that comes out now, but then that helps us
Yeah.
appreciate the better films nowadays. Like, just to backtrack to
The ones that
Hereditary.
Right.
Right, the ones that like resonate or whatever. To go back to Hereditary, the director of that film is having a new movie premiere on the 3rd. It's coming out July 3rd, called Midsummer, and it takes place, I believe, in Sweden, and it's like a festival of sorts that's very traditional in their culture, and he just takes that idea and turns it into like a horror film or whatever. And I'm already hearing some pretty good positive things about it. Of course, though, with those movies, which isn't for everyone, they're very slow burn, and it takes a while for things to actually happen. Like Hereditary, I'll admit it's not for everyone, not only because it's super messed
it's
up.
Definitely it is a slow paced movie, and it is really messed up.
Right. But
But they hit every nail in the coffin, I think.
exactly, like once like that final act, it's just pedal to like they're flooring it. It does not let up at all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then I
So-
think that's what makes a movie. Like the fact that they can tell this whole story and take you on this journey just to make a sharp right to somewhere that you were not expecting to go, and that's what Hereditary did for me personally. It did a really good job of staying on track to information that you can try to guess what the issue or what the movie or the plot of the movie is about, but then it just makes this complete 360 turn and goes a different direction and ends in that direction, and it's just honestly amazingly done.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
And there's not a whole lot of movies that do that. Like
Exactly.
they can't do that.
Exactly. Like they don't tell the story of the characters and really focus on each character arc or just the story in general that the whole movie is, telling. It doesn't really utilize even the cinematography, the score, and everything. But this movie, like you said, it hit every nail on the head. And we'll definitely have to do a podcast episode just based solely on that movie and just analyze it, because that would be a lot of fun. There's a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things that I know who I've talked to with people, they didn't notice. So that would definitely be interesting to kind of just explore in its own episode.
Right. I'm down.
But again, to kind of just backtrack, like it just helps us appreciate like the good stuff that does, come out. So I feel like in essence, horror is kind of coming back to a degree. There were a couple of movies that came out a few years ago, like I don't know if you really enjoyed it or not. I know some people did and some people didn't, but It Follows, Don't Breathe, movies like those that have been coming out, and even some of the remakes. Like I heard Child's Play was decent. I haven't seen it yet. The Conjuring films have all been pretty stellar. Maybe not so much the spin-off movies like Annabelle. But I know the newest Annabelle that came out has been getting decent reviews as well. So horror kind of is back in the mainstream, like it's doing better than what it was maybe like 10 years ago, where we were just getting like gore porn, like Saw movies and all that. So I'm interested to see, how Midsummer is. I'm going to actually catch that with my friends next week. So I'm ready to be traumatized again. And then I'm also interested to see what else comes in the future for horror movies. We're going to be getting the sequel for the Halloween movie that came out last year in 2020.
Hopefully that does good.
Yeah, I hope so
Who
too.
knows what direction that's fucking is gonna go? That could go complete shit.
I hope. Yeah, indeed. The same with It Chapter 2 that comes out later this September, and the first chapter was incredible.
It looks promising.
It does. That
At least
trailer
for
that
me,
came out,
it looks-
that's all I need. That is all I need.
With the
That trailer
grandma,
was...
the old lady.
Yeah, that was very well done. That's
shit
all I need.
Fucked me. That shit
Yeah.
just. It definitely fucked me. I'm sorry for my
Yeah.
language, but yo,
No, it's
that,
totally fine.
That's the type
yeah.
of stuff, though. That's the type of movies that I'm saying that they need to make more of, like that type of suspense, that type of just that trailer by itself. Is you just leave, you leave, and you feel like, what the hell did I just watch?
Exactly. Like that's a short
what
film
the
in
heck
and of
was
itself.
that? Like, and right, but that by itself could be the whole movie, and it's just like not even 10 minutes. Like it was like maybe a 15-minute trailer or something like that. It was
Right.
It was a pretty lengthy trailer, but it was like a short trailer of a scene that was in the movie, and it was just like, holy crap.
Yeah, no,
But yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
It chapter 1 did a really good job for me too. There's just a whole bunch of movies that I feel like back in the day really made a huge impact, but there's some movies that are coming out now, like what you're saying about horror movies technically isn't dead, because there's some movies that are still going strong, just like It. And like you said, It Follows was pretty good. Don't Breathe was great. Even stuff like As Above, So Below. Like, that movie did good for me. And that was a great movie.
I enjoyed that too. Yeah, even the third Blair Witch film. Like, I know some people didn't enjoy it, and I can see where they're coming from. I do appreciate some of the things that they expanded on, and it did have its problems. But like you said, yeah, just
Yeah.
I can't help but have a couple of guilty pleasures. You know what I mean? The POV movies in general are just kind of fun, in my opinion.
Yeah. VHS.
Oh my
2.
gosh! Oh, and then we're just forget about VHS Viral. That was, oh my gosh.
I never even watched VHS.
That didn't exist.
You guys told me not to.
Oh, you don't have to. You don't. It's so bad.
I remember you telling me not to, so I never checked it out.
Oh man, it was very,
like, all right,
very disappointing. VHS 2 is incredible. I need to revisit that movie again. But
Yeah, VHS 2 was really good.
yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add other than the fact that those are kind of just movies that really stick out to me as far as like horror and
I think I'm pretty good too, man. I think it was a solid, pretty. I mean, half of this podcast was dedicated to Blair Witch because I think Blair Witch was the number one film for us as kids that horror film, I should say, that really stuck out. Obviously we already named all of them, and they did its dues. They paid their dues, but Blair Witch just was on a whole different fucking game. Like, it was, yeah. I would have to vote. I think that's why this episode went so fast, as far as like content, based on just Blair Witch, because we both are in agreement that it's not like a debate or anything like that. Like, we both literally were terrified of that movie.
yeah, of
So
course.
I think I try to list movies that can compare, but these movies don't at all. They're not in the same ball game and playing field. Obviously, me and you have different tastes, and I think we both like different things, but we both appreciate a lot of the same things. But I have to, yeah, I'm good. Blair Witch was it for me, and Cloverfield was great too, but Blair Witch was the number one spot, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not to detract on the other films that we made mention of. Like, Halloween was an innovator in and of itself for the slasher genre.
Right.
That's really what spawned, like, the success of Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, even the Scream films, parodying, blah, those slasher movies or whatever. It needed one
Right.
entity in order for the others to work, and it definitely, again, it just spawned so much after that. And if it wasn't for The Exorcist, we definitely wouldn't have had Paranormal Activity or The Conjuring, or we probably it would have been inevitable, but hadn't it have been as successful if The Exorcist wasn't executed as well as it was for its time.
Right.
So, again, we're not saying that the Blair Witch Project is the best thing since sliced bread, even though it is. But,
That's just our opinion on things.
Right, exactly. I'm not going to say that, Blair Witch Project is better than John Carpenter's Halloween. It's better than The Exorcist, blah, 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 because, there really is no ranking system. It's all opinionated and everything like that. But those are different genres of horror that have spawned so many other different things. You know what I mean? But as far as like films that are effective and just really just resonates us, and we talk about it still till this day, is the Blair Witch Project. You know what I mean? So I will say, I guess, kind of like how you mentioned Exorcist at the beginning. Watching that movie like several years after the fact, I think I was in 5th grade when I saw that movie, and it made me cry because I was scared. When I revisited it, I think when I had entered high school, I was like, why was I afraid of this? But there is some imagery, again, that I was too sensitive or naive to at that age. And then you can kind of put yourself in the shoes of the people who saw the original Exorcist back in, 1973.
Right.
they weren't used to that, so that's why people were fainting or vomiting, etc., etc. Watch it now, and it's kind of corny compared to where we are technology wise, but that's besides the fact.
Right.
You know what I mean? And another movie that kind of like it creeped me out was like the Chucky movies, because I had like a thing for dolls where I was just afraid of them.
You know what movie was? Oh, I'll let you finish.
My family, we have this Steve Urkel doll, like a pull string doll, and I remember being
I remember that. I remember that doll.
yes, I was incredibly afraid of it. And I remember one time, I think I was maybe like 7 or 8 years old, and my dad chased me around the house with it, and I was screaming and crying. And then like I finally like warmed up to it or whatever, and like I got used to it. But yeah, the Chucky movies, especially like the later ones, even though like they were terrible, but I didn't know that as a kid. Like when he was all scarred up and everything, like it freaked me out. But we're talking just effectiveness and how we still discuss it till this day. You know.
You know what movie we left out that was really worth talking about?
What's that?
Jeepers Creepers.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Yep. That
Jeepers Creepers was definitely a movie that needed to... That movie, I remember I went to the theaters to watch. I want to say I was like 8. I was like 8 before my little sister was born. Either 8 or 9, but that was definitely something that left some scars
definitely
as a child.
Definitely. I mean, I can only imagine like seeing that in the theater, especially with other people as a kid. But I remember watching it with you and your brother and my sister. I think they were finally showing it on TV one day, maybe like the Sci-Fi Channel. And my sister and I were just like in awe, because again, that was when like all the 4 of us would just like watch and play video games or whatever, like all together.
Yeah, the good times.
Yeah.
The good times.
And I remember being in awe about it too, and just like I was probably 12 or 13 when I saw that, but it was very well done, and a lot of the imagery too. I can only imagine from like a child standpoint how that would affect one,
right?
You know,
right.
And
like just the opening scene and till the part where the truck, man, that's such an icon. I actually saw a meme the other day. It was like, you have no gas, you're pulling up into a gas station, and you see this, and it said it was the Jeepers Creeper truck exactly, and it said beating you. Mm-hmm. What do you do? Do you get the gas, or do you just kind of just wing it? So it was pretty funny, but not the truck part, the body part throwing down the well, like
going down the well,
like
the Sistine Chapel,
down the well.
Like Justin Long's character said, you know, like that's just like all that Jesus imagery, but with legitimate like dead bodies and stuff like that. And the way that the opening sequence was shot, the whole chase sequence, that was very well done, you know, just zooming in on the tires and all these different crazy camera angles, and like it gets you going, you know. And just the visual effects as well, and when he bites the tongue out of the head, you know, that practical effect.
And he had the creeper had such personality to whatever type of demon thing he was. When he would like land on top of the truck and chop the head off, he would start whistling he was terrifying. He was a terrifying fucking individual. And I remember when that movie came out, I don't know why that was such a late click. Like that should have been one of the first ones, because that was a great movie.
Yep. Hey, I mean, it's better late than never, you know what I mean? I would have been kicking myself if we left it out and thought about it after it went up and everything like that. But that's definitely a good a good entry, that's for sure. You know what? I got one now. I don't know how you feel about it. See, now the gears are turning. There we go. But I don't know how you feel about it. I saw the movie, I think, when I was in 5th or 6th grade, and that was the American remake of The Ring. Yeah. And the reason being is because, first of all, the way that the movie is filmed, it has like this bluish hue around it and the cinematography. Like how if you watch The Matrix, it's like kind of greenish or whatever, and you know, it gives it that tone. And then right in the beginning too, I know I can't take it serious now because Scary Movie 3 completely ruined it with the parody with Pamela Anderson and Jenny McCarthy. But just that opening sequence with the two girls, and then like she, you know, one of the other girls, I guess she watched the tape, so she gets completely effed up, and the other girl finds her friend, and her face is all mangled, and just that opening sequence like that freaked me out. Seeing the tape, the imagery of the tape was terrifying. And later on, the lead male who was friends with, I think it's Naomi Watts who's in the movie, when he ended up watching the tape, and then Samara came out of his TV, and then they showed him like mangled up too. It wasn't necessarily like the girl or anything like that was terrifying. It was more so the tape and the way that the movie was filmed, the lack of music throughout really creates that sense of dread. So watching it at that young age, I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. I haven't revisited it since. So it's been about it's been about 13 or 14 years since I've seen that movie. The second film was awful. I remember you and I as kids just making fun of it.
Yeah. The Ring was that definitely, that creepy ass girl crawling and shit through the TV. Yeah. Remember we made what was it? Rachel, no, Rachel, no.
Don't go on the TV. Rachel, don't go on the TV. Like you would repeat
the second
that over
one
and
became
over.
Such a joke. The
second one was
a joke.
Yeah, it was a running gag. It was a meme for us. That you would just repeat that over and over. Rachel, don't go on the TV. Rachel. And then the scene with like the CGI deers attacking the car, that was horrible.
Yeah. Stupid.
I haven't seen that third Ring movie that came out like maybe a year or two ago called The Rings. I heard decent things about it, but I'm not really too interested. Yeah, I think it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the imagery of the Ring, the tape, and then Jeepers Creepers, like you said, some of the themes.
What did you think of The Grudge?
Awful. Just
I would say
we saw that in the theater. It was your mom, brother, sister, you, my parents, myself, my sister. We all went to the theaters. I think we went to New Rochelle.
It was the whole gang.
Yeah. And just us four, yourself, your brother, myself, my sister. We were all just kind of like roasting the movie in the corner. We were like, what is this? You know? And that was 2006, you know, the fact that we were all kind of susceptible, but because, again, we all just hung out and we knew all of our tastes and everything, and it was just this girl gargling on air.
We already started developing our, like you said, taste. Like, we already knew what we were into, what we liked, and then when The Grudge came out, we had all this hype for it, and we were like, yo, that actually looks pretty good, and it looks pretty scary. And we went to go see it, and we were like, wow, this shit was trash. I remember our parents thought it was just shit, and I was just like, what the fuck did you guys just watch the same thing we watched?
Right? Were we watching the same movie? Just a stupid little kid just meowing, and the stupid girl just, you know, it was corny. It was terribly done. And the sequels after that, I don't know how the Japanese ones are. Ju-on, I haven't watched them.
No, the Japanese ones I heard. I have never seen them, but I think I saw one of them, but I don't remember it too much. But it's a lot. I heard it's a lot scarier than the American ones, which is unfortunate.
I certainly hope so. You know, I haven't seen the Japanese version of The Ring, Ringu. I would definitely like to check it out. But, oh man, yeah, no, that was a terrible movie, The Grudge.
Yeah, that was. We've seen some terrible horror movies.
Oh man,
fucking The Eye. Remember that movie, The Eye?
Oh, holy! I don't think I watched it in its entirety, but I was like, sorry, Jessica Alba, you're good to look at, but you're not good to, you know, watch act.
No, never again.
Oh man, what was that? What was that movie we watched that we did a review on? Something Richard Speck.
100 House Richard Speck.
Yeah, what an awful
Yo, if
movie.
you guys want to laugh, go watch that review.
Go watch that review. It's like 100 Ghost Street: The Return of Richard Speck or whatever. There's people that like that movie. There are people that like that
why.
film. But I guess we were watching a different movie than they were, because that movie was just hard. It was an atrocity. It was right from the beginning with the black guy dying, and then like I don't even know how he died. It's like he fell off his stool, and then there was so much blood everywhere.
Oh shit!
His body's being dragged by nothing, and there's just blood everywhere. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no,
But
that movie was terrible.
I'm not gonna get into
Terrible.
it. If you guys want to watch it, go to Red Planet Films, our other channel where we do movie stuff, and watch it.
Speaking of, we should do reviews, online reviews like this through OBS or something like that. And bring those back.
I'm definitely down. But if you want, again, like I'm down to do a commentary track for our film Bruja, which you can watch on the Red Planet Films. Be sure to
redplanetfilms.com.
/ Chris Pops and Richie Vargas _ I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah,
_ Richie V.
ASMR movie reviews. But yeah, if you just go to our other YouTube channel, the Red Planet Films, and watch our review for that Richard Speck movie and our original film Bruja. But again, yeah, I would love to do a commentary track. I don't know if you want to do that after we finish up the pod.
I'm super down, bro.
Yeah,
Super down.
We'll do it. But I mean, I feel like that's pretty much it for me as far as like movies that have really left an imprint on me. I'm very happy that we remembered those couple movies before we wrapped up the pod.
Yeah, I would be in agreement. Those were probably the best movies, and the worst movies, because we just also named a whole bunch of terrible movies that we actually had to say. So I guess we did a pretty good job dealing with the two separating the two categories. But yeah, I'm in full agreement. I'm happy that we did take those 2 extra minutes and just really settle in and everything in and remember those extra 2 films, because yeah, those were worth talking about. But yeah, I'm pretty much good, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe. And I don't know if Richie wants to add on any other sayonaras, but that's it from me.
So just a couple of things before we wrap up the podcast. This is available not only on YouTube. I don't know how you guys are listening to this, whether it's on our YouTube channel or if it's on Anchor.com, which you can create your own free podcasts. But it's also available. We are also available on Apple Podcasts. We are on Stitcher and a couple of other platforms. So again, we'll leave the links and everything down in the description box below, as well as the link to our film channel, The Red Planet Films, our Facebook, and if you want to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, my Twitter handle is RichieRich93_. Chris, I don't remember yours at the moment. I know your Instagram handle is POPPZ_. Yeah, I'm not sure what your Twitter handle is.
My Twitter is Chris POPZZZ. And then my Instagram is @_POPZZZ.
Oh, it's on the underscores first. Okay, gotcha. And then you could also follow us on Instagram at Red Planet Films, and my Instagram is at.
Do it.
Shut up. My Instagram is at PICUR Perfect Moment. That's pick your perfect moment, almost like picture perfect moment. I shouldn't have to explain that, but there are people who didn't understand my Instagram handle, and it made me very sad. But again, if you're watching it on YouTube, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, like this video, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications to never miss an upload or a live stream. Check the description box for all links and more, like I made mention. If you're listening on Anchor or TuneIn or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe.
Subscribe for more ASMR podcasts. Red Planet Gaming, Red Planet Film,
Red Planet, Asmer.
subscribe now.
Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Ew, Ew. And that is pretty much it. Goodbye, everyone, and we will catch you
Subscribe,
in the next video.
motherfuckers.
Subscribe, like, goodbye. I love you.
Good night, everybody.